Hi, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk Chicago. My name's Jon Zaghloul. Great to have you here on Channel 59.3 BPOD TV and Roku. Big show for today is the Bears. About intro press conferences from Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles will react. Plus, they've hired a new offensive coordinator. What's he going to do with Justin Fields? Big question. We'll answer it in just a second. Before we get started, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. If you want to watch more of this show, search up Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube or go to sportstalkchicago.com. You want to watch more shows from the BPOD TV network, search up BPOD TV on YouTube. Yeah, I'll admit it. I was probably wrong when I said Matt Eberflus would be a bad hire for the Bears. I was acting on emotion, impulse. I wanted somebody else, and I failed to realize that we don't know who Matt Eberflus really is. We don't know what he stands for. We don't know about his coaching experience. He has none. It was stupid. It was wrong to say he'd be a horrible hire, and we know nothing about him. If anything, he deserves a chance, like everybody else does. I want to rescind what I said. I still would have preferred somebody else. I still think it's crazy that Bears fans who were clamoring for a head coach had to clamor now for an offensive coordinator, but that's besides the point. The fact is, we don't know how Matt Eberflus is going to work with this team. And until we see results, good or bad, we can't really make a decision yet. But to his credit this weekend, he did something I really liked. The Bears hired Luke Getsy from the Packers, their passing game coordinator, to be their offensive coordinator. Pretty big coup, if you ask me. He will call plays, according to Eberflus, and he will be the main point guy to develop Justin Fields. Now, many of you might say, who cares, John? Getsy never called a play, knows nothing. He stuck around after Matt LaFleur was hired. And many people may not remember this, but he really helped Aaron Rodgers develop. And you might say, well, Aaron Rodgers didn't need developing. Yes, he did. A couple of years of losing seasons, horrible football, needed to reinvent himself as a quarterback. He did, thanks to Matt LaFleur and Luke Getsy. He's the passing game coordinator. I don't know if you ask me, our passing game was pretty good these past couple of years. And Getsy didn't start in that position. He was promoted after LaFleur took over. So this whole offensive renaissance for the Packers was in part due to Getsy. He comes here now to develop Justin Fields. I'm a little bit worried because he's never called plays before. But I certainly trust him over Matt Nagy. I think anybody is more trustworthy at this point than Matt Nagy. So I'm cautiously optimistic, if not excited, for Getsy and what he could do with Justin Fields. And that's a credit, believe it or not, to Matt Eberflus for bringing him in. The Bears have actually had so many big-time coaches, former defensive coordinators, special teams coaches, safeties coaches, cornerbacks coaches. All of them are excited. They want to come to this team because of Eberflus. That's a credit to him. Goes to show his reputation around the NFL. Hey, when the Bears hired Matt Nagy, I don't remember this much interest being around positional coaches. I don't remember people saying, hey, I want to be your special teams coach. There weren't people lining up to work with Matt Nagy. There are people, though, lining up to work with Eberflus. That's a sign. Obviously better than Matt Nagy. We all knew that. I mean, you'd have to be really scraping the bottom of the barrel to have somebody worse than Matt Nagy. Oh, yes, admittedly, I overreacted a bit. There was somebody I wanted. The Bears didn't get him. I wasn't happy. And ever since we had that video, there have been more people hired as coaches. Brian Daboll went to the Giants. Hey, unfortunate. Thought he really could have done well with Justin Fields. Didn't work out. Jim Harbaugh is now in the running for a job. Josh McDaniels to the Raiders. I mean, this is unfortunate. I would have loved either of those guys to work with Justin Fields, especially McDaniels. Daniels may not have done well in his first coaching stint in Denver, but didn't have a quarterback. Had Kyle Orton and Tim Tebow. My goodness. Here you got a real potential quarterback you could develop. I think it could have worked well. Only time will tell which one of these coaches is going to be the best of the group. Need to see results, need to evaluate situations based on personnel. It's going to be a long way to go to determine who got it right and who didn't. We don't know. Nevertheless, the Bears have their guy. So at this point, instead of reflecting on who they could have gotten or who went where, let's talk about what he is and what he brings to the table. And at this point, I'm optimistic. For a couple of reasons. Number one, seriously, I don't remember this many people wanting to work with Matt Nagy. Like, do you remember all these coaches, different coaches around the game saying, I want to come to see you. I want to come to work with you. I'm going to leave my job in a different city, different team, come work with you. Didn't happen with Matt Nagy at all. The Bears expanded their front office, too. I mean, they're making different changes organizationally, not just on the field and coaching-wise. To be honest, I'm pretty stunned. Didn't expect all of this to be put into motion from this team. Not this team. Other teams, for sure. Those are first-class organizations. This team should be first-class. Haven't acted like it for decades. But they are now, which is interesting. Why now? It's important to note that Ted Phillips, George McCaskey are still there. So if this doesn't work, we know why it didn't. But it seems to me like they're committed to some change. That's a good thing. Never thought I'd see the day where they'd be committed to this much change. And it's catastrophic, really, when you think about it. Think about where the Bears were a month ago. Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, going nowhere. Justin Fields being wasted in his rookie year. Now, new coach, new offensive coordinator, new GM, new assistant GM. First time ever in Bears history there's been an assistant GM. There's a difference. And I'm not saying I'm all of a sudden going to be a cheerleader for this team and all of a sudden things are going to be better. But what I am saying is it's different than they were about a month ago. It's different than the last time the Bears had to hire a head coach and a GM. That should be cause at least for a little bit of celebration. Just a tad. Not ready to buy into this team yet. Have a long way to go. But it's not a bad start. And it's a better start to me than Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace or Mark Trestman and Bill Emery. It's a better start. And that's not a problem to me. Here's what I really like, though. This was revealed during the press conference. Luke Getsy will call the offensive plays. The defensive coordinator will call the plays. Eberflus will be the leader, the CEO, the emotional center of the team. I might have been harsh on the Eberflus hiring, but I love this. No ego. Not Matt Nagy. No ego. There is no, I'm a defensive guy, I'm going to call the plays. I know what I'm doing. No. It's actually pretty honest. I have an OC, he's going to call the plays. I have a DC, he's going to call the plays. I'm going to be a CEO. I love that. Really, I love that. It shows that he's humble. It shows that he's not willing to put the ego above the team. These are things that we all demanded for years to come from Matt Nagy. Never can. I want to talk about somebody who's egomaniacal. It's Matt Nagy. Matt Eberflus, the opposite, according to his statement, at least. I like that. That certainly changed my opinion a bit. Again, doesn't mean he's going to be great. Doesn't mean this team will work under Eberflus. They could go 3-13 next year, 3-14. But there's at least a difference in the approach. There's a difference in the approach. Matt Eberflus will not call the defensive plays. The DC will. OC will call the offensive plays. He's literally telling everybody, I got no ego. There's no fighting about who's going to call plays, like with Matt Nagy, or I'm not calling them, but I really am. No ego here. It's just straight up, let them do it. They're better at it. I want them to do it. My identity is not going to be defined by calling defensive plays, calling offensive plays, making decisions like that. Granted, that means more of an emphasis is going to be on him leading these guys, being a good leader himself. So that's how we're going to have to judge him. But I don't have a problem with this at all. I love it. I welcome it. I mean, think about what we've all gone through the past couple of years with Matt Nagy. I'm calling them plays. I'm calling them again. I'm sharing play calling with Phil Lazor. Matt Eberflus right away said, no, I'm not doing any of it. Completely dismantled what Matt Nagy's done for 4+ years. It took one press conference for Eberflus to already be better than Matt Nagy. Think about that. That doesn't mean he's going to be a huge success, but it does mean I'm more excited for that. I'd rather have somebody who puts their ego at the door and worries about winning. Worries about being the best. Matt Nagy never did that. It was all about ego. He was defined by his stupid play calling. That made him who he was. It made him happy. Here, not the case for Eberflus. He just wants to win. I can't fault a guy for having that mindset. So, yes, that gets me pretty excited about what he brings to the table. Doesn't mean it's going to be great. Maybe this whole thing will blow up in a couple of months. We'll talk about next year the Bears being 0-10 in October, November, and firing Eberflus or firing Ryan Poles. Who knows? But I want to see how it plays out. And I was wrong earlier, yes, for jumping to conclusions and being extremely mad about the move. That was an emotional reaction because I wanted somebody else. Yes, 100%. Brian Daboll would have been great. Jim Caldwell would have been great. Josh McDaniels would have been amazing. So, of course, I'm not going to be happy when you bring in some defensive guy whom we've never heard of, who has no experience. Yes, it's going to trouble me. But I like his attitude. I like his attitude based on the press conference. At the end of the day, it's going to be about results. Everybody will love you, including myself, if you're a winner. You have to win. You have to win to prove to me, to prove to everybody else, you know what you're doing. And it has to be sustained. Matt Nagy won in 2018, then sabotaged Mitch Trubisky, sabotaged Allen Robinson, and got fired. No more success, no more winning, no more playoffs. Gone. There has to be sustained winning with this team. That's my judgment. That's how I'm going to judge Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, and this new makeup for the Bears. Sustained winning. Not 1 year, then all of a sudden you suck. No. This Bears team has to be a force. Talking about 3 to 5 straight years of playoff appearances. If every other organization could do it, why can't the Bears do it? If every other organization could be a playoff lock every year, like Los Angeles, right? The Rams, they're a playoff lock every single year. You know they're getting there in some capacity. Patriots, Bills now. All these teams, you know where they're going. You know they're getting in. Steelers, for the most part. You know they're getting in. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but they're going to be in the playoffs. The Bears need that sort of success. It is unacceptable that the Bears last won a playoff game in 2010. Unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And that's going to be my marker for how Eberflus and Poles should be judged. We need sustained success. Bears fans need sustained success in order to judge how they do. Plain and simple. But this start is not bad. Definitely better than how Matt Nagy started. Eberflus has assistants around the NFL begging, really begging to work with him, But more importantly, I love this statement. It just shows no ego. And for a team that's been plagued by ego problems from the head coach for the past 4 years, it's refreshing. It's pretty damn refreshing. I'm not going to call the defensive plays. That's for the defensive coordinator. Not going to call the offensive plays. That's for the offensive coordinator. Really? Tell me more. You know, it sounds revolutionary, but it's pretty simple. Makes you wonder why for years Matt Nagy just didn't get it. Ego problem. Matt Nagy was defined by his offense, and his offense sucked. So then he became defined by losing and mediocrity and breaking quarterbacks, and he was fired. Eberflus, smartly, is not going to make the same mistake. He will be judged by how he leads this team. How the players respond. Do they respect him? Do they like him? That's how he's going to be judged. And that's fine by me. It's going to be hard to gauge how he does at first. I mean, if he's not called on offense or defense, it's going to be difficult, but results will matter. And I think that's the main takeaway from this whole press conference. Results will matter. If you want to find a way to judge Matt Eberflus, take a look at the win-loss record. That's how you're going to have to do it. Take a look at how these players play for him. Will they play hard? Do they respect him? Do they like him? Right off the bat, he's shown no ego. And that's fine by me. That's a huge change from Matt Nagy. But do the players like him? Will they play hard for him? And will the Bears win under him? These are questions that need to be answered over time. That's how you're going to know if he's a good coach or a bad one. So we don't know today. And it was stupid of me to say, oh, bad hiring, bad coach. I wanted somebody else. But here we are. Eberflus is the coach. Can't go back from that, so let's see how he does. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. I want to see him in action. I want to see if he really means what he said, especially when it comes to play calling. I want to see how they all work with Justin Fields. That should be the main thing. Now, the good thing was Justin Fields came out during the press conference, so the Bears have kind of embraced him. Saw a tweet saying, oh, you know, they didn't do this with Mitch Trubisky. Didn't do this with Jay Cutler. That's great. So you're going to embrace Justin Fields. Fine by me. Better develop him. There better be a big-time improvement come this year. Can't be having 7 touchdowns, 10 picks, 12 fumbles. Not anymore. Got to be better. Got to be better. Something has to work this year. That doesn't mean be Patrick Mahomes. I'd say, at the least, match Mitch Trubisky's stats from 2018. Nothing wrong with that. 24 touchdowns, 12 picks, 95 passer rating. That'd be nice. Those should be the expectations for Justin Fields come next year. Really. Everybody bashes Mitch Trubisky, that's fine, but you know what? Let's see Justin Fields match it. Now, as a good OC, supposedly, new head coach, team who believes in him, no sabotage, no breaking quarterbacks, there's no more excuses. He should have at least or match what Mitch Trubisky did during his best year. That's a fair ask, I think. Pretty fair ask to have. So the positive from all this is we have benchmarks and ways to gauge how everybody's done. Ryan Poles will depend on the head coach. The head coach will depend on wins and losses. Justin Fields will depend on how he develops under the new head coach and the new OC. This is how we know if the Bears are getting better or not. So now we have the game plan. We have the blueprint. The question is, can they execute? Don't know yet. Won't know for a long time. Until September, October, will we know. But, good way to start. Good thing to look forward to. And of course, we still don't know how this roster is going to look. There could be a lot of changes between now and August, September. So there's still news. There's still a long way to go. And I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic a bit more based on this press conference, based on the hirings, based on all these coaches who want to work with Eberflus. and based on the fact that Eberflus himself, contrary to Matt Nagy, has no ego. That to me is the big deal. Thanks for watching today's show here at BPOD TV, channel 59.3 in Roku. Really appreciate the time. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. If you want to watch more of this show, search up Sports Talk Chicago, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and sportstalkchicago.com. Or if you want to watch more shows from the BPOD TV network, search up BPOD TV on YouTube. Really appreciate the time. Tune in every night at 10:30 right here at BPOD TV to watch more Sports Talk Chicago. So long, everyone.